And it is the strangest thing. The Teams invite appears in my Teams calendar, but it's a Zoom link.
That's very strange. Because I sent it through Outlook, but I have no idea. It's never happened before.
No, it hasn't, really wacky, but we were quite lucky to got to the right spot.
Excellent, and we do now have one.
Thanks, Ian. If you can share screen, please. Welcome everyone, and Happy New Year to all of you. Today is our January 2026 meeting of the Special Education Advisory Committee for the TDSB. We are going to be having things a little different today in terms of our beginning of our meeting. We are having the elections as previously shared. Next slide, please, Leanne. We will begin with the land acknowledgement. So if I can ask you to stand if you're able, please. We acknowledge we are on the lands of the Mississaugas of the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, and the Wendat. We also acknowledge the enduring presence of all First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people. Miigwech, thank you. So for the election staff will run the election. We will conduct the election for the chair first. Only members are eligible to be nominated. Alternates are not eligible for nomination. You may nominate a member and they may accept or decline the nomination. So one member may nominate another member. Members may also self-nominate. If there is only one nomination for either chair or vice chair, the candidate will be acclaimed without a vote. And candidates may have up to 5 minutes to address the membership prior to voting. Before we start the voting process for chair and vice chair, I want to extend a sincere thank you from TDSB staff to previous chair David Leposki and previous vice chair Tracy O'Regan for serving this past year. We have enjoyed collaborating with you, and we thank you for working alongside us to support students with special education needs and disabilities. If you are in the room, you have been given 2 pieces of paper. We will start with the election for the chair. Please write the name once we have the candidates. Voting will be by secret ballot. And you will, for those of you in the room, will write on the sheet of paper and I will collect them. If you are online, please please use the private chat. So in the chat, you're going to send it to Leanne Dixon, Lianne Dixon, and she will have your vote that way. And we will be needing some time, of course, to tally the in-person and Zoom ballots. If there's a tie, there will be a second vote. If there is still a tie, the decision will be made by a coin toss. So we will start with the election of the chair. Are there any nominations for chair? Again, members can self-nominate or members can nominate a member. Thank you. So we have a self-nomination from David Lepofsky. Nora? Okay. And Nora as well is going to...
I was at Bronwyn, I'm going to nominate as well, David.
Okay, thank you, Bronwyn. And online, Leanne, any other nominations?
I don't see any hands raised, and I don't have any personal messages.
Okay, thank you. So going once, twice, I don't see any other, Mr. Hybrid, please be patient with me. I'm trying to get the room as well as online here. So Leanne, no other nominations online, none other coming from the floor. And so congratulations to David Lepofsky on another term of being SEAC chair. Before we go to nomination for the vice chair, David, did you want to say anything?
No, other than thank you, and thank you, Mike, for all three elections.
Thank you very much. So voting again for vice chair will be held at this point, following the same format that we just concluded. Any nominations, and Leanne, you can help me with online, please. Any nominations for vice chair? Again, members may self-elect.
Maybe I'd like to nominate Jordan Glass. I want to thank Tracy O'Regan for her excellent work. She's indicated she isn't able to continue, and I therefore nominate Jordan.
Thank you, David. So nomination from David Lepofsky for us to serve as vice chair. Leanne, any nominations from online?
I have no indications, no.
Any other nominations from the floor or online for a vice chair? And I'm not in the Zoom, Leanne, so I'm depending on you here.
No, I have nothing, no hands raised and no personal messages.
Okay, thank you very much. Welcome, Jordan Glass, to serving as vice chair for TSBCI. Is there anything you'd like to say?
Just that I'm honored to accept.
Sorry, I see that Leo's hand is raised.
Yeah, it's not a nomination or a self-nomination. It's just asking if it's procedurally correct to maybe invite the acclaimed members if they can maybe, well, maybe not David, we all know David, but I haven't heard much from Jordan. It would be nice to hear a little bit about him and what his priorities will be.
Thanks, Leo. So I did offer that to Jordan, and he said it was an honor to serve, but I can go back to Jordan again to see if there's anything you'd like to add now.
Yeah, absolutely. Leo, I know I've spent much of our time since COVID online, but I've been on the committee for more than 10 years now, and my priorities are to represent the city as a whole now, moving forward from my role as a regional representative, and work with David to do that.
Thank you very much. Okay, welcome officially to David and Jordan, and you may resume the chair of the chair, vice chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone. Happy New Year. It's great to be back, and thank you for entrusting both of us with this responsibility. We won't let you down. Let us dive into our agenda. First, we should approve the agenda for today's meeting, which has been circulated. And I was wondering if there is any motion, anybody might move to approve the agenda. Okay, Charlie moved it, and you identify for me if anybody seconds it, either in the room or on. Nora? All right, all in favor of approving the agenda? Okay, it's approved. Next, I need to know if anyone has a conflict of interest to declare on any of the agenda items that we've approved for our meeting. I understand there are none. Next, we have approval of the minutes. I may traumatize staff, but I looked over the minutes, and they, I think, fairly represent the content of our meeting, only they don't attach my chair's report. However, I don't believe I actually brought a motion at the last meeting to get the chair's report added to the minutes. We'll make it public somewhere. It will be seen. We wish that the staff would post it online. But in any event, I am actually going to, we will now consider whether to approve the minutes. And for what it's worth, I believe that they are an accurate rendition, and they do have sufficient detail in order to provide a record of what we've advised and what we are recommended and what we've been told by staff. So in light of that, is anyone interested in moving that we approve the minutes of our December meeting?
I'll move.
Jordan is moving. Anyone second?
Sorry, Jordan, are you able to see, are you on Zoom? Are you able to see the folks online, or do you need assistance with that? Because I see Anne and believe Jean Paul have their hands up as well.
My apologies. I do need it for the moment. My computer's being having some technical difficulties.
All right. So why don't we put Jean Paul if he's moving approval? Can we have a seconder? Okay, if staff can assist if they can see the screen.
I see Ann from the post.
Okay, Ann. Thank you. All in favor of approving the minutes? Opposed, if any?
So just give us a minute, please, to see. I have 3 in the room, Leanne.
Just counting. Couple, 1, 2. I have none opposed. I don't know if people, I only have 3 votes up, so I'm getting more now. Okay, so we're good. Thank you.
All right, good, thank you. Now we move to what is listed as the chair's report.
David, it's, sorry, it's Louise. I raised my hand and I mic.
Oh, sure. I wanted to actually first introduce someone who is new. By direction of the province, the Director of Education is to attend SEAC meetings, and I understand, in light of the fact that Clayton Latouche is no longer the Director of Education, the Acting Director, Stacy Zucker, is right?
That's correct.
Hey there. So, A, welcome, and B, would you like to just introduce yourself for a second?
Thank you, absolutely, and thank you for welcoming me. Again, my name is Stacy Zucker. I have been an associate director here at the board since 2022, but I've been in education for 20 years. So this is my 28th year working in education. If you may recall, when Colleen retired, I did serve an acting director role at the time for 4 months last year, and so I have been appointed to this role as interim director at this time. So happy to be here and looking forward to hearing the discussions, and thank you for all the work we do for the students that have special education needs and disabilities.
All right, thank you. Now, not on the agenda formally, but it's in my chair's report, and I think I might just deal with it now. The SEAC at the last meeting has 4 different motions.
Sorry, David, before we start, I'm just supporting your here, but we still have some hand up, and Michelle Paul has his hand up.
Someone, okay, there's a couple of you still have your hands up, and if you could just take them down from the vote, that would be great. You're good?
David, I just wanted to make comment about the minutes before your chair's report.
Sure.
Just, thank you. I just wanted to, before you begin another topic, I just wanted to express my gratitude for our working relationship and the working relationship from staff to SEAC members. There are times where we agree to disagree, but always listen to each other and try and find a way forward that is respectful and incorporates as much of what has been said as possible. And I think this is an example. So I just wanted to express gratitude and also, reiterate staff's commitment to be listening intently and to be working collaboratively. And I think that we demonstrated that. So thank you very much, Chair Lopowski.
Thanks. Now, in the last meeting, we passed 4 different motions, and they were all important. I believe one of the reasons the minutes are as were significant improvement is because the advice we gave took the form of motions, and they are repeated verbatim in the minutes. Maybe the way we address the concerns we had about how to approach cases, we just crystallize our recommendation in the form of motions. We'll determine that over time. But of importance, and I addressed this in my chair's report, I was advised that these motions were taken to the provincially appointed supervisor as is appropriate. Jean-Paul, I understand you still have your hand up. I don't know whether you're trying to raise a point of minutes or if you just left your hand up.
Yes, please. Sort of.
Okay, no problem. And happy to do it, by the way.
Okay, thank you. Happy New Year. And thank you. Congrats, David, for this new, mandate. And I like the way that the minutes, kind of written. The only comment that I will have is that if for the minute, for this meeting minutes, we avoid making them to sound like it's a dialogue between staff and the chair.
Okay.
Because the way that they are written sounds like it's a dialogue between the staff and the chair, and which is not exactly what it is. Because even though the chair, participated in the discussion, member also participated in the discussion. We should probably find a way to synthesize what SEAC said, not saying that the chair said, and Associate Director Louise said. Thank you.
Fair point, and I agree. Anyway, let me just pick up with the one part that I want to focus on in my chair's report. And that is this. The staff took the motions that we passed at the last meeting. In the past, they would have been taken to the trustees. There are no trustees, and in lieu of that, staff took them to the supervisor, which is totally appropriate. I was advised, and we may hear more about it from staff and leadership report, that the chair, the provincially appointed supervisor referred those motions back to staff. Here's the problem that I'm addressing. He's of course entitled to, just as the trustees were entitled to. But under the provincial regulations which are binding on the school board, they are not superseded by any guidelines or policies or protocols or anything. When the trustees are to make a decision on a recommendation, or the trustees are first required to afford us an opportunity, SEAC, to be heard. And the trustees did that. During my period as chair, I presented at several occasions at meetings of the trustees or the committee of trustees, and appreciated the opportunity to be heard and questioned, whether or not they agreed. And the staff had an opportunity to do the same, all in public. And then whatever decision they reached, good, bad, or different, that's what they did. In this case, the trustee, or pardon me, the supervisor, in effect steps into the shoes, I would respectfully suggest, of the trustees whose role he is now taking on. His role is limited to theirs, but it includes theirs. We were not afforded an opportunity to be heard before we rendered that decision on those four. I'm very concerned about that, both from the perspective of compliance with the regulation and as a matter of respect for SEAC. Also concerned that, note that I appreciate that I had the opportunity to meet with the supervisor twice. I will again. I look forward to it. We've had good meetings. And a constructive one. But they were before staff brought these points to the supervisor, and before he rendered his decision. So we were not heard on our motion. And I therefore am proposing, dare I say it, a motion. And it is a motion in effect calling on, or expressing a view by SEAC that the supervisor should afford us an opportunity to be heard before rendering a decision on our recommendation that we present to this committee. Leanne, I wonder if you could just read the motion out before we discuss and possible vote on it. Again, we don't-
Sorry, David, which,
It's the motion
Which motion?
regarding, it's in the report, not the last one, it's the.
oh, not the last one, okay,
No.
just give me 1 second, sorry, I prepared the last one, I can, okay. Okay. Whereas Ontario Regulation 46497 requires that when SEAC makes a recommendation to TDSB, trustees may not make a decision on that recommendation unless SEAC is afforded a chance to be heard. And whereas the TDSB trustees always allow the SEAC representative to speak to the trustees at a public SEAC meeting in support of a SEAC recommendation, and to hear what TDSB staff say in response to that recommendation before making a decision on it. And whereas the Ontario government has removed the trustees from their role governing TDSB and has appointed a provincial supervisor who takes on the role of the trustees among other things. And whereas the provincial supervisor had made several decisions on SEAC recommendations without affording SEAC an opportunity to be heard and has not attended any SEAC meetings, SEAC therefore recommends that the provincially appointed supervisor should afford SEAC an opportunity to be heard as to the trustees before making a decision on a recommendation from SEAC.
I'd like to move that, and I'm wondering if we have a second.
I second it, Donna.
Right, I'm wondering, if the speakers list, if anyone wants to speak to it, if the wording is okay, if there's any, anything that, I'm open if that I didn't get it right. With some word changes, I think it's okay.
I saw John Paul's hand go first.
John Paul, anybody else or Michelle? Okay, John Paul is our speaker. Go ahead, John Paul.
Thank you, I was just raising my hand to support it.
Oh, okay. Any other discussion, or shall we go to a vote? Okay, no, nothing else, then all in favor of the motion, please raise your hand.
Three here, Leanne.
Okay. 1, 2, 3. And I have 9 online.
Okay, opposed if any? I think that's a majority. No opposed. All right, thank you, pass. With respect, okay, next on the agenda, we agreed that the April, meeting of SEAC is going to be devoted to receiving, delegations from parents, and guardians of children with disabilities or special education needs to identify, problems they've encountered and recommendations of how things should be improved. And I will be calling the Parents Voice meeting, because staff asked that we not use the term town hall. I call it everyone. But in any event, can I just indicate we need to pull together a Parents Voice working group to basically plan the event and figure out how to publicize and get the word out. That's really the only thing we need to do on that topic at our meeting today. It ought to be a short group, short-lived activity. We'll have a couple of Zoom meetings, do our planning, and make it happen. So could I just get an indication who might be, and I think I volunteered Nora to chair it. All right, did I volunteer? I think I did.
And volunteer.
Yeah, got it.
I also see Leo, Ronwin, and Tracy online.
Okay. Leo, Ronwin, Tracy, and I will also do it. What, did Jessica say yes?
Jessica. I'm also, put my name in there.
And Jordan. Excellent. And
Thank you.
if other
The only thing I'd say, David, just one thing to note is if it could possibly be outside of working hours.
all right,
That's my only thing, because I work now until 5:36, and I really, this means a lot to me, as I'm sure many of you know, to never shut up about it, so I'd really like to be a part of it, but I just can't do the daytime. Thank you.
all right, no problem.
And I see Richard's hand is up as well.
Richard, are you wanting to speak, or you want to be on the group?
To be on the group, thank you, Dave.
Okay, great. And Richard needs extra, wants to be after hours, so let's plan it for after hours. Stay tuned. All right, very good. The next thing on our agenda is, Craig is here, I gather? Craig's here? Excellent. Happy to hear Craig. So, An important role of SEAC under the regulations that create us is that the school board is required to consult us on the special education budget. And every year we have several presentations by Craig Snyder, who is the senior TBSB official responsible for the budget, and who knows it like no one else knows it. In the past, he's presented a detailed slide presentation, and then we get an opportunity in the few remaining minutes to ask questions. Because we're in a different world today, with the change in the governance at the board, I decided that we want to do it kind of differently. And I want to do it in the form of first having a Q&A. And then, and while answering, Craig can take as much time as he needs to explain. He can refer to your PowerPoint slides as you wish if you need to. But I wanted to give us a chance to weigh in with our questions and our comments and our feedback. I'm going to ask the first one. But while I'm doing that, if anyone wants to ask questions, please, and I'm prepared to stretch the content of the time allocated to this. If there's a lot more than we can fit in 30 minutes, this is critically important, and we can adjust the remaining time on other topics accordingly. Could you, if you are interested in asking questions or giving feedback to Craig, please raise your hand now, and Jordan will start taking speakers list. Okay, the question I got, and I think it's the big question, lots of others that are important, is this. Each year around this time, when you present to us, you provide a very thorough and persuasive series of numbers that basically boil down to the board has to spend more money than the private. And we all know that last June, the province decided to assume responsibility for the board and replace the trustees, and stated this is because of the budget deficit at the board. We've now had a provincial supervisor in place since June, and what I'd like to know is, number one, has the province increased any of the funding for the school board to make up that deficit, or have there been cuts? Or are we running a deficit? And if there have been cuts since the supervisor took over, can you tell us what's been cut?
So through you, Mr. Chair, I wasn't prepared to speak tonight to the current year budget, but the budget has increased for special ed right now at this point in time, and the funding remains the same as when we built the budget in June. So both budget and revenue have stayed the same.
So we're still, so as for the deficit that the board had when it approved its budget, and we were told this, I think, by one of the other senior staff, that the budget from last fall, that was approved in the spring, is still the budget. So essentially, the supervisor has not made any cuts at the board, budgetary cuts. You mentioned that one cuts to the special ed budget is the same as the budget respecting the rest of the board is still the same, because obviously our kids, if it's a building, they, especially the building is paid for not by the special ed budget, it's part of the regular budget.
So through you, Mr. Chair, there have been no reductions to budget. There has been review of staffing complements that are needed when people retire or resign. There's a hiring and review process, but the budget itself for the 25-26 year remains the same.
Okay, good, that's very good. And as for, you're in the process of developing the budget for next year. Normally, you would be going through the process with the trustees. Well, first the staff and then the trustees. And you would usually explain to us how that worked and what the timeline was, culminating in trustee meetings and strategy and so on. How's that gonna work this year? Is it the same timeline, it's just the supervisor, or, is the development of the budget gonna be any different process?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I would say that the mechanical part of how we build the budget will remain the same. The time when we work and coordinate with the supervisor is still yet to be determined, and what his needs are for information versus what the trustees' needs are. But the mechanics behind the budget will be basically the same process.
And when you knew at a certain point in time last year that you were looking at a possible budget, possible deficit, because there was obviously a lot of activity to explain about that. Do you have a sense, we're especially concerned, obviously, with cuts that affect special education specifically, or students with disabilities or special education needs, whether it's called special education or not. But across the board, or in any way, is there a point in time when you can know or not know whether you're looking at a shortfall between what the province will give you and what your projected needs, spending needs are? And so when roughly are we talking, February, March, April, June?
So through Mr. Chair, that'll be somewhere between mid-April to May, depending when the grants are released, and we can calculate the revenues to the board, the funding to the board.
Got it. All right, speakers list. Nora, then Richard, then Leo, and I'm going to do time because you need time.
Sure, thank you, and thank you for coming tonight, Craig. A couple of things I'm going to be really specific, because I appreciate you said you're not sure about the process. So things I'm looking for are the financial document, facts document that you publish every year. Will the board be publishing a financial facts document to the public? I'm looking for the, presentations to the public. You and I have met many times in different places and locations when you're presenting. And I appreciate that you take the time to do that virtually and in person, and I'm sure it's a lot of time on your part, but I think the public really appreciates knowing the decisions the board has to make. And then delegations regarding the budget from the public. So often when we've heard there are budget limitations, particularly in special ed, we would have families come and talk about the program and the impact the program has had, and staff have been able to present. So am I understanding that you're not clear as to whether any of those three things will be happening this year?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I would say at this point, we're still developing some of that. We are still working, as I said, the mechanical part of the staff work will continue this normal sequence of events. But we're still working on what the longer public and consultation process will look like.
And I'm just curious, how will the public be informed about what's changed and what to expect? Like, will that go out in a blast to all the schools, to all the parents? Like, how will the public know?
When we have a final blueprint, we'll work with our communications department to make sure that it's in an appropriate form that the majority of our parents and stakeholders can understand.
Thank you. And I'm just clarifying again, because I've heard other school boards have had to cut some staff mid-year. That's not us this year, correct? That's what I understand.
Through the chair, I would just say it this way, that the hiring review is taking place with the supervisor as positions become vacant to determine if they should be refilled or not.
And does that include things like psychologists, speech and language pathologists, EAs, classroom teachers?
I can help, if that's all right. Hi, Nora. Every position that comes vacant does go through a hiring review. There have been no reductions to any position related to special education. And the supervisor certainly appreciates the direct support staff are providing to students and has made that statement.
Cool, that makes it clear, thank you.
You're welcome.
And the financial facts, I'm sorry, Are we going to be getting, when do we know when we'll be getting the financial facts documents?
We're working through the chair, we're working through some of those processes right now. We should know in the coming months or so, what, again, consultation and information will be provided, to the public.
Well, great. So next was Richard. Happy New Year, Richard.
Happy New Year, Dave, and everyone. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. Through you, Mr. Chair, question would be, is the current budget being followed by the Toronto District School Board public? And if it is public, where can we access it in its entirety, just to support the role of SEAC to make contributions towards the budget? And I think it would be helpful to see the budget as it is now being implemented, and also being aware of what will be coming for the next year. I do sit on the budget committee, but unfortunately the working group with SEAC, but unfortunately the previous meeting I believe was held during the daytime hours and I was unable to attend, so hopefully those will be able to be moved into off work hours so that we can all attend that are on the working group. So my question is the budget public? And if so, where can we access it in the entirety of what is public? Thank you.
So the budget documents that are provided to trustees are public on the website under the report section. I don't have the actual link. We can put that in the minutes where all the reports are that were provided to the trustees through the finance budget enrollment committee during the development of the budget for 25-26.
Okay, we've got Leo and then Latoya, and if other people want to speak,
Perfect. Sorry, Dave.
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Richard.
I just want to clarify. I'm trying to see the actual budget as it's being implemented now. Is that available on the website?
We have never published a full detailed budget because there are operational things in there that are for privacy and confidentiality concerns would not be issued as a full detailed budget. But the budget deliberations and the documents that support the budget are on the website.
Thank you.
Okay, sorry about that, Richard. Leo, and then Latoya, and then if others want to join the speakers list, curtains watching the screen for it.
Thanks, David. I'm just going to bring something up, which is a big issue for us. We are very much guided by data, and we have many families, so we get a lot of feedback from families. And I would say this is probably the number one issue that we're hearing now. My question is, given the gap between service need and availability, how is your budget addressing wait lists and access issues in special education? We're hearing from many families, particularly those trying to access in-class supports, as well as ISP, that they feel increasingly out of reach. Is this really a reflection of a system under pressure where access is being restricted like a pressure valve to manage limited resources? Or is this more about the complexity of navigating and processing needs within such a large system? Thanks.
So thank you to the chair. I'll ask Louise and Andy to take that. They'll be better to answer the service side of special education than I think.
Thank you. Hi, Leo. So we have processes that we need to work through, and we are working through them as students come through. So IPRCs for students going to, needing to go into ISCs. We also are working through all of our assessment waitlists, including psychological assessment waitlists. And believe me when I tell you that for the first time, we are actually less than a year for a psychological assessment as an example. So we are working through, we're using additional ministry funding as well. The ministry gives us funding if we're able to get staff to do additional assessments over the winter break, spring break, summer break, and we actually had some staff interested this past winter break. So we were able to get some assessments, not many, but we were able to get some done again based on interest of staff. We don't have wait lists for ISPs per se. If there's space for students for an ISP, they're offered that ISP. Sometimes there are families that might be looking for a closer location to their home, but as for the special education plan, we offer the ISP with space closest to the student's home. So we are working through all of our processes to ensure that students are placed or assessed as quickly as possible. And like I said, we've made gains, particularly in the psych assessment piece. Wait times or on the wait list has been a year or more, and now we're approximately at 10 months. Thanks.
I'll add, Leo, thanks for the question. If we have a student or a family who's expressing a need of support, we would send an essential team to get to know the student. We might have an SST who would evaluate the support level of the school and dispatch additional support if we feel that's necessary. So we certainly don't want there to be delays for our students and families. And as always, please reach out to us. And as you do, as advocates with families, and we'll problem solve together. So we really appreciate the partnership. Thank you.
Grant, you wanted to add into that, or?
There's still some people on the waiting list.
Yeah, no, I'm going to, but no,
I'm fine, I think that I can always have it.
I just want to note in response to the helpful feedback from Mandy and from Louise, that really appreciate senior staff saying, if you know someone who's running into problems, to connect you with them. Problem is, that's really not fair to the families who don't know us. And especially when we're not live streamed here anymore and they won't know to call us. And frankly, we're volunteers and shouldn't be the ones who have to use the advantage that we have to be connected with you through SEAC. That is exactly why we've been passing motions to address this. It's going to come up in our next subject about the family and student support office, but that is illustrative of the problem. That people shouldn't have an advantage of knowing us, the people volunteer. Latoya, you had a question.
Okay.
But the ones that would apply to special ed have been applied and the work is underway.
I think I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
Opportunity to share.
David, can you mute your laptop, please, maybe? Because you're using the mic?
Something new. Okay, it's stopped. Could I just ask that people don't have to feel that they have to speak through the chair? I'm kind of free because no one's a formality in using it, but I'm happy to drop that part of our formality.
If I may,
Sure.
Chair Wilkowski, we should please be using governance rules, so we should be going through the chair. Thank you.
Well, I'm not going to do this. Onward.
I'm guilty. I don't think I've ever done it. My apologies. Anyways, the biggest, so as far as the Children's Treatment Network, I brought this up before in the past with the funding. Craig, if you could remind me or point out now that the supervisor is involved, this is one of the most poignant times we can bring awareness to the long wait list for children that are waiting for allied health services, for speech language pathologists, occupational therapists, through VHA. Like, the services are, my child who was deaf and hard of hearing is still waiting for he's now in grade 3, he still has not had any speech language therapy within the school. He's very fortunate to have had an itinerant teacher and to have an assessment, but then you're put on this list that takes 3-4 years to get the services. I also have another child who has a different level of hearing loss. She has actually had 2 rounds of speech language therapy, and it's they changed the system where no matter what your disability is, you're just put on that list, which I understand for inclusion, just to not prioritize children with disabilities, but this is one of the biggest problems where parents don't understand the children's treatment work, the network exists. Now, the supervisor, Louise and Nate, if you could push or talk about it, or just give me an update of something that could be pushed as one of the biggest problems in our system with TDSB, where it's not speech language pathologists only come in, they don't give the therapy, they just do the assessment, and then they go and they drop them down on that wait list. So if that could be brought up through the three of you, Craig, and Andy and Louise, I would be very appreciative and to follow up on that.
Through the chair, thank you for that, and we will make a note of it.
Okay, great. We don't have any last call for speakers. Craig, I've got one other question, and we're probably gonna run out of time, and I'm sure you had things you wanted to talk to us about that we didn't cover, and so I'm happy to have you back last meeting or at whatever time you want. I don't want to preempt that. I just was like, my question for you is, I've got two. One is this, under the regulations, TDSB is supposed to consult us on the budget. I've raised entirely the fact that typically what happens is we get told how it's being developed, and that's helpful, and what challenges are that we face, and that's important. And really what the financial limits are, what we need versus what we get. And we need to know that. And we ask questions, but that doesn't involve us actually giving you substantive input on the budget. And so I'm eager for TDSB to let us know, not necessarily on the spot, we can do it at a subsequent meeting, but how you would like to consult us on the budget, and get input from us on decisions, and so on. We do, of course, identify with the special education staff where we see service shortfalls, and no doubt they communicate that with you, but what more can we do? The other question is, I'm not proposing this, but I welcome your answer. We're now in a unique situation here compared to the past, which is in the past, you've identified where the budget is short of what we need. But the potential allocation is short. Then it was left between the trustees and the ministry to rank however they do. Now, you've got a direct pipeline in the minister's office and the supervisor. Is the board asking the ministry for more money to cover that deficit, that shortfall, between what you've been previously allocating and what you actually need to meet the needs of the budget that was approved last spring?
So there was a two-part question there. The first part, I believe, was around how the consultation with SEAC would work. And what I'll do with one slide, I won't do the balance of the slides because they're there for in your minutes, I believe, and you can see them. But I will speak to the consultation. So what we're looking at, if my machine works for me. There we go. Just give me a second. Slide. So what we keep tonight, and we're in the package, I won't take the time to go through, there's 3 slides that take you through the actuals for 24-25. That shows the revenues, the expenditures, and the enveloping. So I'll leave that to time tonight. The other thing I was coming tonight was to talk to you about and talk about what the consultation will look like for SEAC. And as I said earlier in our discussion this evening, we are working through our internal processes to determine where we are with staffing and other costs such as utilities and transportation, etc. The grants will come out sometime mid-April to mid-May. Hopefully mid-April or earlier would be better. Once we have that information and we know our cost structures, that's when we come back to SEAC and say, here's what the deficit or surplus is, here's what it is for the special ed envelope, here's the way we're planning to deploy to support special education, and then ask for your thoughts and feedback at that point in time. And that's prior to the final decision on the budget being made, so that your input can be taken into that process. So that's what I would suggest as far as that. To your second part of the question around advocating for additional money, I think through the discussions we'll have with the supervisor, I'm not in all the meetings with him, but I know we've had discussions on different topics with him over the time, and we will continue to have discussions, especially around the budget process with him. We will always show him what the challenges are within the overall board, as well as within special education, to make him aware of the issues and concerns there are with our resources versus the expenditures, and that's part of what his work with us is to look at.
Yeah, that's great, thank you very much. Well, I appreciate your time, thank you for coming in, and we look forward to.
Sorry, David, I just wanted to clarify.
Oh, sure.
I apologize to interrupt. Just to be clear here, so SEAC, the Children's Treatment Network, is funded by MCCSS. So I want everyone who might not be aware of that, it is not funded through the Ministry of Education. They work collaboratively together. So this is the key time for collaboration to raise with the supervisor to get them together to understand this. So I just want that to be crystal clear, that that is being forgotten in this. So, if everyone knows this, I'm sure Mandy knows this, Louise, and everyone else here, but, and then Craig, I'm sure you do as well, that we need to advocate for this, for them to get together, because that is the key root of this problem, and it will not be resolved unless they are at the same table to discuss it. Thank you.
Thanks so much. All right, great. Thanks so much for coming today, and we will we'll follow up.
No problem, everybody have a good evening.
All right, next on the agenda, and close to on time, I've asked if the staff would give us a briefing with respect to the forthcoming student and family support office. For the benefit of those who are newer to this, the province announced back on the, I think it was the 3rd of December, or shortly, or no, pardon me, before that, that they were directing all school boards to establish a student and family support office where families who are having difficulty resolving an issue regarding the education of their child, any child, can contact that office for assistance. These boards under supervision are required to have those offices open earlier. If memory serves, it's the 15th of this month, which would be this Thursday, weeks and maybe looking at that one. And so with the doors about to open, last month we passed a motion saying that there, I'm paraphrasing, should be specialty support provided for families and students with disabilities or special education needs. We should be running to people who've got some expertise in that area. Wondering what this is going to look like in 3 days, and especially even though since our recommendations were referred back to staff, what action staff have taken in response to our requests regarding that office.
Thanks, David. So with regards to the Student and Family Support Office, TSB asks that students and staff, students and families continue to follow the TSB parent concern protocol, speak with the teacher first, principal and superintendent of course as necessary. If the family has already followed this process or feels that the appropriate route to address the concern is the Student and Family Support Office. That is what the function of the office is, to provide another access point through a phone number and an email address which will be shared with all TDSB families and shared publicly in the near future. The ministry has communicated that Monday, January 19th will be the launch date of this office, and staff are currently working with the ministry to confirm final pieces. Staff will continue to work with staff within the Student and Family Support Office to increase understanding of special education at the TDSB and how to best support addressing questions and concerns that come forward to the office in a timely manner. So we have always collaborated with staff at the school level as well as across departments to support families, and we'll continue to do that and to build capacity in that area.
All right, questions, anyone, or comments? Nora, go for it. And while Nora's speaking, if others want to chime in, just raise your hand and Jordan's tracking for it.
Thanks. So my understanding from the answer is that there will not be specialized staff in the family support office and in the special education, and that your department's using what little time you have left to support additional people to understand that role. So just to share the experience of many parents that I've come in contact with, they follow the parent concern protocol. Following the parent concern protocol wasn't the issue. The issue was how they felt that process served their needs. And what inevitably happened was it goes up to the superintendent and then came right back down to the very people they felt weren't listening to them. So my feeling right now, and I'm trying not to bring my bias to the family support office, but I'm feeling like this is going to be the same kind of thing. Because I don't know how a small office with very few people, fewer than a group of trustees, is going to manage all the calls that used to go to trustees and do anything with any kind of authority or knowledge when it's that tiny group of people and there's a large number of issues that flow up. So how does this not create either A, it's a backlog to get to talk to somebody in there, get a response from them, or B, it really, the parent concern protocol basically stops the superintendent.
Thanks, Nora. So I just want to confirm for everyone that when trustees were in place, all of the concerns that went to trustees actually did come back to staff, and staff were the ones that would address it or else support the trustee in responding to the family. And so that would be the same process as well. And there are also timelines, again, I shared earlier that the final pieces are being worked out, but the ministry has stated clear timelines to school boards in terms of when they're to be getting back to families. So I'm not anticipating a backlog that you refer to because there are strict timelines within which we have to work.
Just from my perspective, it looks like business as usual, despite it being a new office. I'm just pointing that out.
Okay, let's wait.
Thanks. I think some of the reservation, or one of the main ones I have is that we currently have, I think they're called education officers that are with the ministry. So where if there is a concern, parents can call that phone number, and they can, or they should be able to have those concerns addressed from daycares to schools as well. Is this, it kind of feels like a duplication of services, and additional funding, I guess that's going towards it. Do you know if there's been any update or any reallocation, so that way we do have more funding available, I guess, for schools? And also, over time, the office, with the Minister of Education, I guess it gets forgotten about it unless people will contact or know about if it is like, is this new approach, is it replacing that, and if so, what are we doing to ensure that, parents are aware of it, has it as a way that they can contact, and not just as an option to call, only to be heard, that the parents need to go back to the principal. Sorry, that's my question.
So thank you, and through the chair, just wanted to So there are no new resources that have been provided for this office. So this office has been created by the school board using existing resources that we have available. So no new funding was provided. It is an opportunity for the board to assist parents and families in navigating TDSB. And so, again, there is an expectation that we would be using still the parent concern protocol, but it will provide possible assistance in how to navigate that protocol. And then it will, if the protocol has been followed, triage the next steps that would be required in order to address the concerns of the group. So that's the intention here. It doesn't replace anything at the ministry level. This is purely about TPSB and ensuring that we are supporting our students and families as best as possible.
All right, just a follow to that, because I guess with the hope of like that very strong intentionality in terms of addressing these concerns. I heard a parent even at one of the meetings that they had for special education in this learning center, where they were raising the concern and the instruction was to go back to the principal, and you could hear that despondence in the parent's voice as they say, okay, I guess fighting is the only option. So it's, my hope is that there is a significant amount of intention to rebuild bridges for them to really start to take action, because for parents who are coming and who are going this far, they're already exhausted. And even if they can't speak to all the different avenues that they've gone, by the time they have come to this point, it's an exhaustion. So I'm hoping that there is a level of intentionality, not to just hand the parent back to the principal, but to actually handhold the situation and keeping that conversation going with the parent.
Okay, Ann?
Thank you, Chair. I just have a quick question. Will this Student Family Support Office be able to investigate concerns or mediate resolutions at all?
Stacy, is that one that you should take?
Thank you. So the school principal under the Education Act has certain responsibilities, as well as the school superintendent, and so through the chair, depending on what the issue is, it will be directed to the principal or the superintendent to work with appropriate department staff. The office's role is to ensure that that's done and done in a timely manner, and to follow up if needed with the family that is reaching out to the office. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Robin.
Yes, thank you. I think the support office will be excellent. The thing that I'm going to be realistic. I mean, in systems, in the medical system, when you get a diagnosis, it's the similar process where there's medical professionals or educators. They're not trained for the emotional grieving and trauma that comes in all this process. So I am not expecting these professionals to be trained in this way, so I'm being very realistic. I don't see magic things happening with this. I think it's a good idea, but I think from a cost-effective approach, and we've been using this method in the deaf and hard hearing community for years, is the parent-to-parent support, to be unbiased, not to have parents that are, vengeance and hating the TDSB and people who are angry, but if you have a parent there that is losing their minds and grieving and crying, and you are not professionally trained to support them in that way, and nor should you be, there should be a parent contact list or a rep from an organization that they can refer them to. And again, this comes back to the collaboration practice that I think really needs to be thinking outside the box in a cost-effective way. In the deaf and hard of hearing program that we have, we are advocating to have paid parent mentors because it is such a time commitment. This could be something that looked at as a pilot project, as a role model, to look to see how other provinces are doing it. successfully in BC. It's a big success. So I would really like this to be brought back to get the parent-to-parent support in these times of trauma, and to not expect these professionals to magically be able to emotionally support them, because it's not possible.
All right, Leo, I think is the last person, unless anyone wants to raise their hand. Leo, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm just really struggling, and perhaps it's a the issue, and someone can explain a little bit better, but when you read the announcement for the province, and I understand that there's no additional money, but when you read the announcement for the province, you understand what the intent is and the purpose of this new office. And then when we go back to what we're hearing now, it seems to me that it's status quo, and it's what we had before, which completely removes the virtue from what was being proposed in the office from the province in the first place. So I don't understand. Maybe someone can clarify what I'm missing here, but it seems that somehow the provincial intent was able to be transformed with words into exactly status quo. I'm lost. I'm sorry.
So, thank you, and through the chair, I'm just reading what the province indicated that this was going to be. And it said that they were requiring school boards to establish this so that parents and guardians have a clear, effective way to help or to get help regarding their child's education and find solutions faster. So I think that that's what you are hearing. It says they'll act as an additional way to help families get answers on broader community concerns. So it's not that the office is going to answer the questions, it is about navigating the system, because the system can be challenging to navigate. And so I don't see it as an additional problem-solving area, but I do see it as a tool that will certainly help families to find the right people to speak to, and to do it in a timely manner, because there are expectations with regards to timelines for how quickly families receive responses.
We've got Nora and Jessica, but first, Stacey, I'd just like to follow up on your comment in the context of the transition, because I had this conversation at this table with Clayton a month ago. But just so you understand, here's what my worry is. I think this crystallizes what Ron and Nora and a number of people are saying. There's two things this could be. As a practical matter, not wrapping it up in formal technical language. It could be a place that, if I call up and I say, look, my child, I've talked to the principal, my child has this problem, they're not getting X, they need X. And it could be a place that simply, essentially, is a process facilitated. You need to talk to these people, this is who you gotta call, I wanna make sure you got the right number. Or they'll call up the superintendent and say, well, as the superintendent told you, they're gonna tell them the same thing all over again. That's one, let me just contrast, that's one possibility. The other possibility is, if I call up and I say, my child isn't getting X, and it's a problem, and it's affecting their education. And the person taking the call says, you talk to principal, yes, you talk to student, yes, no, they don't use someone. And at that point, the call taker, whoever they are, could call up, talk to the principal and or the teacher and or the superintendent, and they might say, well, wait a minute, their understanding is X. Have you tried to follow it? And try to actually broker a solution, not direct or order a solution, but facilitate a problem solver. And if they can, they say, look, it's unresolvable. Or it may be that the person's complaint turns out when they talk to the principal, there's nothing to it. They misunderstood or something. It could be they raise that. But the call taker could be simply, here are the rules, here's the process, we want to make sure you've gone, I can borrow from what Nancy was saying, I may have misunderstood it, but we just want to make sure you've gone through the parent protocol. If you haven't, if you solve it, that's it. Or it's an office that goes beyond process and is trying to be an effective, proactive problem solver. what do you plan?
So through the chair, I think you indicate the first obviously will be tailored to parent concern protocol. If the parent concern protocol has been followed in the resolution, then to your point, this is where the office will try to work with the superintendent and whoever, whatever other staff are required in order to see if there are any other possible solutions. At the end, it may be, I'm sorry, you know, the answer that you received all the way along is still the answer. But there will be a second look at it above and beyond the current concern.
Okay, that is substantially better and obviously for certain, a real promise. And especially by the fact that sometimes the superintendent has no control. Like, it's a problem with busing. You know, the superintendent doesn't run busing. So there's only so much they can do other than say, here's what we've been told. Anyway, that's enough of me. Nora, and then Jessica.
I think Jessica was next.
Oh, Jessica, and then Nora.
Thanks for the opportunity. I want to, I guess, rephrase David's question in another way. So in the last year, I sat with families going through the special education appeal board process. And every time, families said they had a wealth of people who were willing to recite rules to them, and an absolute dearth of people who were willing to listen to them, to understand the problem that they were trying to address. And it wasn't until they reached the appeal board that they had someone who actually stopped to listen. And in each case, the appeal board turned to staff and said, why is this the first time that the TSB is listening to the parents? So I'm wondering, how do we achieve a cultural shift so that parents feel like they were actually listened to and they were going through that parent concern protocol? Because we are often pointed at rules, pointed at the special education plans, told, look at regulation X. When that's not what the family needs. The family needs somebody to actually understand the concerns that they have and to sit with them and help to resolve those concerns. And what I'm hearing from colleagues on SEACs and other boards is that other boards do successfully do this, but that the TSB has a reputation for simply reciting rules and not listening to families. And I think that that's what all of my colleagues here are saying, is that we would like someone in this process to really stop and listen and understand what the problem is rather than telling us what the rules are.
Thank you. Nora.
Thanks. I guess I just have two follow-up questions. One is, so when calls come into the office, and maybe you mentioned timelines and timeframes, things have to be answered within. If it's a human rights issue, is that prioritized? Is that set up? Because it comes ahead of my kid didn't make the volleyball team. And will that office report that to your human rights office? And then I have a second question after that, one to go through.
I'll do this one. So there are processes. One of the great things about special education is that there's a process for most things. So we have a process for filing a human rights complaint as an example, and that's done through the Human Rights Office. We have IPRC appeals that Jessica referenced a minute ago, so that's another process as well. And so the office again works very closely with all departments, depending on what the concern is, and we would continue to do that to support families. So that would be all part of the process as well.
So I'm sort of, what I'm hearing and interpreting is basically the responsibility for actually supporting the family, absolutely laying out there people who are already trying to do that. So this office is not really, like we've had to find money from the departments to build an office that's not really serving, is my perspective. And I guess the second thing would be this, well, the navigation, now that we've talked about navigation, is it gonna direct people right back to the superintendent, to the principal? Because I'm gonna say in my lived experience, when I try to direct families to internal special education staff, I am frequently told that they should not be talking to internal special education staff, because that's for, I guess, the school in the field to talk to, but not parents, and that internal special education staff can't override school staff because they're colleagues. So if the parent concern protocol is the only recourse families are gonna get, I don't get what you need office for. If all that's gonna happen is they're gonna say, go back to the superintendent and go back to the principal, because outsiders aren't allowed to know who's on the inside to get information, what's the point of the office?
So Nora, you know very well that special education staff, as an example, work to support students directly in classrooms. If we're looking to shift support that they're working full-time to respond to parents, I don't think that's, where we want to see them be, and I don't think in conversation with you, that's what you want to see either. However, we do have situations where special education staff work alongside and support in meetings, for example. They're part of ISTs, they're part of school support team meetings, they're also part of family meetings as well. But again, under the Education Act, as an example, and we've talked very much about this at SEAC and with SEAC, the IEP, the Individual Education Plan, is an example under the Ed Act. It is the responsibility of the principal and the teacher. And so a teacher consultant or coordinator, as an example, or even a centrally assigned principal, cannot oversee the teacher implementing an effective IEP, as an example. So again, we would be working to support the principal and the teacher to ensure that an effective IEP, for example, is written and implemented. So it's a total partnership and collaboration to best support students and families, and that's what we will continue to do.
And that's why I asked the question, maybe, because I know how hard your staff are not inclined to, what I'm saying is, the navigation is literally what you see on the parent concern protocol and nothing more. There is no more of the navigation. The public will be directed to exactly what they already read. And now you've been forced to find money to establish an office, which I would argue there are families that watch this meeting could not get supports they were hoping for, and if we were picking staff or how to reallocate staff, would rather have seen other staff hired. But you've literally got an office now, it's going to send you right back to, here's the SO, here's the principal. That's the full extent of the plan. The teacher, principal, the SO. I don't think that needs a whole office. And I understand that's not your decision, I understand that the board had to follow it. It's just my understanding that I'm not really sure what this gets us. Thank you.
Stacy, I'm just going to wrap this up with a request that can't answer on the spot. We understand that if the minutes reflect this request, I'm happy. If not, we can do a formal motion that's not to that end. I want to ask if we can get brief at some point. I want to ask that the office keep records of the requests they're getting and the resolution. Not for us to see individual cases, but I think that both for you as the Director of Education and your senior staff, the aggregate information to get back what people are calling about and what worked can be very, very helpful for planning. And I have experience with this, I'm going to tell you what, very briefly. Very positive experience outside the education context, and I urge you to follow it. And it would help us too if we got briefed at some point on the trend. There is a provincial committee on which I sit called the Ontario Courts Accessibility Committee. Its role is to oversee progress towards an accessible court system. It has representatives from judges in the courts, the government, the legal profession, and the disability community. It's been around for about 18, 20 years. It's got a really good track record. I've had the privilege of serving on it since it started. It's co-chaired by a justice of our Court of Appeal and the assistant deputy attorney general for court services. So we're talking about two serious people in charge. Each courthouse, court facility has its access and accommodation coordinator. They help people in the public if they're involved in court and they need a disability accommodation. They keep these kind of records. We get aggregated reports every year or so. We've got X number of requests, X percentage of hearing loss, X percentage of issue, whatever. It has helped us understand what kind of demands there and needs there are. It helped the government see that the most common request for accommodation for people with hearing loss. It led the government to say, hey, you gotta do something about this, and you can systematically install better audio equipment in a number of courts. You see how individual complaints, aggregating the information, learning from the experience, and the information feeds to the government for its own policy planning, but to our committee for giving advice. I think this is the correct analogy here. Now, this is before day one. You guys have to rush to get the doors open. Understood. But it would be helpful if staff could get back to us when you're ready and with experience is up and running to see if there's way to track trends and let us know about it. And I think you, as in your acting director of education role, would want to know about those trends. Anyway, all I can say is, can you take it away? I'm not asking for an answer, but I would like to request, which I think is important to me in minutes, if not, your motion is needed. Thanks to staff on this. Let's move to, John Paul and Laura have comments. I think this is so important that I'm happy to keep going. John Paul and then Laura.
Thank you, David. I think I'm sorry, I don't know if I missed something here. This Student and Family Support Office, when I read the mandate, I don't see they say that, we help resolve matters that need to be escalated to the following initial engagement with child, teacher, and person. And when I look at the current, the current protocol, consent protocol, there's a reference beyond principal to the superintendent or even more staff. I was wondering if with the establishment of this Student and Family Support Office, the protocol will be reviewed to factor in the existence of this new established office. Because otherwise there will be, it's still kind of, maybe I'm missing something, it's still kind of confusing.
Yeah, thank you to the chair. We are looking at whether or not the parent concern protocol stands on its own or does need to include this office. And so that is a review that we're doing right now. And I think you're right that when the ministry does talk about it, it stops at the principal level. And the parent concern protocol refers to the superintendent. And obviously, if a parent is calling and they're calling because the resolution that they, or the conversations that they've had with the superintendent, they would still like to escalate it further, that's where this office will come in and triage to determine are there different people that we need to bring around the table. So I think the parent concern protocol does still continue and stand on its own, and in fact, I think goes a little bit further than what you see from the ministry in regards to this office. So I think that the office will help to bring the right people around the table and make sure that the concerns are being dealt with by the right people, and again, with a time expectation on it as well.
Okay, and Laura.
I had a question for you, David. the minutes, so regarding conversation for the minutes of this conversation, do we have to make a motion to list the fact that we had concerns that it could possibly potentially be status quo?
I think
And
that,
do we have to pass the minutes to say that our recommendation would be that that would be taken?
I think at this point, because we've got some other stuff to do, I think that we take it away and decide we may want to move forward with the motion for the next meeting. But we also will have the benefit of, let's see, the first few weeks of this operating. I think that's the best way to take this one. But if someone wants to make a motion, you know, of course. All right, let's, thank you for this. Can we move now to the leadership report, and within the leadership report, I believe you're going to be, among other things, addressing an update on the staff action plan, among other things. So maybe we could do both, either as you wish.
Thank you. Leah, next slide, please, for the, thank you. So, the first item that I'll be sharing is our parent engagement sessions for January 2026. Special education and inclusion continues to offer a number of drop-in and topic-specific sessions for parents, guardians, caregivers for the 2025-2026 school year. We have advertised these sessions as well as on our website through principals in their own blogs or school newsletters, and families are encouraged to attend. On our website as well, I'm just reminding SEAC members that all sessions previously held, these are not the drop-in sessions, but the farm parent engagement sessions, they have been recorded and posted on the Special Education and Inclusion website on the Parent Engagement Sessions page, and so families can actually access those previous sessions offered. Additional qualifications courses, the department is pleased to offer a range of additional qualification courses during the winter and spring terms. We actually just started a new session, additional qualification session with 21 participants enrolled. We have special education parts 1 and 2 that began on January 6th with a full cohort of students, their teachers participating. During the fall term, we did offer our teaching students with communication needs autism to 22 participants, and we will be offering this course again in the spring, and we're anticipating a full cohort there again as well. This month, we were able to feature across the TDSB a story about a student at Don Mills Collegiate that had a job at Evergreen Brickworks, and Nicholas is a student at Don Mills Collegiate who loves nature, and so he had a summer adventure camp placement at Evergreen Brickworks, where he participated in a number of activities that he actually led, including arts and crafts activities and free play, and also nature walks where campers searched for turtles and explored trails. So he was able to participate as a leader in this program, and his placement was part of the Focus on Youth Toronto Summer Program, which is supported by the Occupational Therapy and Physiotherapy team within the Special Education and Inclusion Department. Nicholas and his family are very happy for us to share his story, and we continue to support students through Project Search, which is a ministry-funded initiative to encourage students with developmental disabilities to participate in work sites and work opportunities. Next slide, please. With regards to the action plan update, we have looked very intentionally at the implementation of the individual education plan audit tool, and we have also created a best practices guide for writing and implementing effective individual education plans. We've started to do this work with a series of schools across the district. And the entire department has had professional learning on this as well, so coordinators, consultants, and the assigned principals. And we are now supporting a number of superintendents to do this work and to use this audit tool with some of their schools, with the intention, of course, of rolling it out to all superintendents and all schools. So monitoring impact is a focus of the plan, using both quantitative and qualitative data. We will be able to track the number of modified IPs, and we will be using pre and post surveys for staff and parents to measure changes related to the creation and the implementation of effective IEPs. Looking also at educator competence and confidence in writing and implementing IEPs, and parent engagement as part of the process. Of course, we know that we need to be consulting with families in throughout the IEP process, but also in the IEP itself. We would also be using surveys to improve the tool and preparing for, again, implementation across the district with all superintendents. Next slide, please. So removing barriers to students with disabilities, Ministries grant, and these are the grants from last year, and again, we were able to have funding for 5 of our grants, so this was the last update on the last project that we used grant funds for. Individuals with disabilities face more barriers to employment and lower employment rates than their non-disabled peers. And so the Higher Listed initiative set out to address some of these barriers. The Occupational Therapy Physiotherapy Services team connected with over 300 businesses to understand why they were not offering placements to students with disabilities. Some barriers were beyond TDSB's influence, such as labor management restrictions, while others were practical, such as building employers' competence and confidence in addressing concerns about students' workplace readiness skills. And in response, this team developed resources for educators to support students in areas such as self-advocacy, professionalism, and workplace routines, so that when they were able to enter some of these businesses, that they had the skills needed. Next slide, please. EQAO data each year, and this started a few years ago with the PAC on SEAC calendar, where we were providing for SEAC EQAO data, and we've included that in this meeting mail for the 24-25 school year. System overall, the TDSB largely held the line in the 2024-2025 EQAO results, with grade 3 EQAO results virtually mirroring the previous year, and grade 6 EQAO results being slightly higher for reading and writing and staying the same for math. In the secondary panel, the SST results were mostly unchanged from the previous year. That's TDSB students overall. In terms of students with special education needs, excluding gifted, achieving at levels 3 and 4 in grade 3 EQAO, these students achieved grades between 32 to 37% lower than the TDSB overall achievement levels that I just shared. By grade 6, the per capita EQAO levels 3 and 4 declines for both reading and writing to 27 to 28%, and scores are 32% lower for math. So the achievement patterns that we saw for the 24-25 EQAO results are similar to those that we saw in 2023 and 2024. Next slide, please. And the TSB, as we know, supports several students who rely on Braille for accessing curricular materials, and World Braille Day was held on January 4th, which serves to raise awareness about the significance of Braille. January 4th marks the birthday of Louis Braille, and that brings me to the end of my leadership report.
Great, thank you. I want to open it to questions. I'm going to be bringing a motion regarding the staff action plan, but it's not contingent on the content of the report. So I'd rather have everyone ask whatever questions Richard, Nora, Latoya, and others can just let Jordan know. Go ahead, Richard.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For you, Mr. Chair, I have 3 questions, basically. The conversation that there was a number of, I guess, drop-in sessions in January and programs for parents, etc. I know I've asked multiple times in the past how members of SEAC who are not parents of students attending school now can receive copies of this information when it's released to the families, or is there one location on the website that we can go to on a regular basis and find all these communications because they're invaluable? That's the first question. The next one, Mandy talked about Project Search. I'm curious to know how many students at TDSB are actually involved in Project Search versus how many could be involved if funding was available. We don't have to answer that question now, but we'd like to see an answer for that. And I want to go make a comment here. Approximately almost 10 years now passed when my daughter graduated from the TDSB, and we're still looking at work options, etc. And it's great to focus on those that have gotten jobs, and I heard in Mandy's conversation that she is in fact, or is out focusing on other areas where students haven't received and found gainful employment, and some of the barriers. And I see a huge opportunity for our associations to, receive this information, feedback on what's going on, and how we, not to say work with the board, but take this and implement it within our associations. It seems to me to be valuable information that I don't think we have at our fingertips. And the last question, I guess it's 4 altogether, the EQAO results for students in special education. How many students in the DE programs, the MID ISPs, etc., are omitted or excluded from writing these EQAO exams? I'd be curious to know. Those numbers may be in the presentation. I haven't looked at it in detail yet. So feel free to answer any of those now or at a future point through any follow-up. Thank you.
Thanks, Richard. So Project Search comes with parameters. We currently have 10 students in our Project Search cohort, and we're actually looking to get a second group going. With regards to the engagement sessions, I've repeatedly shared that on the TDSB special education site, there's a section called Parent Engagement Sessions, and all of the sessions have been listed there since September 2026 for the entire school year. So as we complete sessions, we delete them because the list is quite long. So right now, if you go on the site, you should be seeing sessions offered from January to June 2026. With regards to the exemptions that you're asking about, we have that information, and I can certainly share with you that exemption. The majority of exemptions for EQAO actually occurred in grades 3 and 6, and there were no exemptions in grade 9 and very few in grade 10. Students can only be exempted from the OSSLT if their IEP indicates that they're not working towards an OSST, Ontario Secondary School Diploma. And so I can share more information on that, but if you look through the data that I provided, it's also in that chart. So all of the information you're looking for, Richard, is in the chart that is provided. Yes.
Thanks. So I had a couple questions just about the IEP work. I'm hoping that a lot of the collaboration that Latoya and I did for the review, the special education review, will be in the surveys that will be going through for the IEP. So when you said you're monitoring the impact, is focused on the plan utilizing both quantitative and qualitative data, and it talks about surveys to families. So will some of those questions that we consulted on be included in that? And so I guess really my big question is, can the SEAC committee, the full committee, see the audit tool, the best practices guide, and then the survey so that we can contribute?
Thanks, Nora. So this survey is not the survey from the review that you're talking about. This is an operational piece that staff are working alongside because we're piloting it right now with a few superintendents, as I mentioned, and a few schools. So we're looking at what we're doing in that process and getting feedback from that. So it would be to a specific group of families, for example, and a specific group of teachers and principals and superintendents and surveys that we would be looking at doing, not all TDSB families and not all TDSB staff. So this is completely different, and we do have an update on the review that Stacey will be sharing as part of this leadership report, but trying to get the questions through from the report before we get to that.
And will we be able to see the tools in the surveys and that?
I'll have to take that back because it says something that we're working on with staff. However, what I can tell you 100% is that the 5 meetings that we had as part of creating this action plan with you and others on SEAC, we've looked at that and taken that into consideration and inputted a lot of that into the work that we're doing. So those meetings were very helpful, and comments from families as well as the TSB action plan working group were all used to create what we were creating.
I just was hoping that the rest of the committee would have a chance to sort of see that more specifically. And so that's my request would be that we be able to see the resources. And then I just wanted to finish with the survey that was planned with that special education review team was quite comprehensive. Like, I was impressed with the work that team put together, but I hope that some of that work also would have been, I understand it's a different survey, but there was a lot of really valuable questions in there about IEPs and their implementation, and it would be a shame for all that work that the board had been doing about the special education review not to be used.
Thank you for your thoughts. We'll bring that up and take that under advisement.
Okay, just before Latoya and then Diane, we're gonna wrap this up for now. I get to one other item. I was wondering if you could, two things. One is, could you, I want to echo the request that we see those documents. And even if they're works in progress, I think it would be best if we could see them, just we might set up a working group to give you feedback on them, rather than having to finalize them, and we give you feedback and it's too late where we finalize them. So if you could take that back and let us know. Again, kind of I'd like the minutes to reflect, if not, we can make a motion formally asking for it at the next meeting. The other question is, can you just give us some more detail about the audit process? As I understand your report, the superintendent will have an audit tool, will decide that a certain number of students' IEPs will be audited. And then what happens? For one thing, who decides and how many? And who does the actual audits? And where does the result of the audit go? In other words, if they find out that there are deficiencies or whatever, or really good ideas, whatever, where does all that go? Or is that still a work in progress?
Thanks, David. So this is still a work in progress, but all schools need to engage in school improvement processes and looking at students that they serve, and this is part of that school improvement process. So when a superintendent visits a school, for example, to meet with the principal to look at students and how the students are achieving or not achieving in the school, the IEP conversation or on the tool would be a part of that. And so they would be looking at a number of students to be determined. Each school is different, however, the tool itself would remain the same. The tool was created, and again, it's a work in progress. It's staff's work, staff's to action, and it's based on the requirements, as we know, that individual education plans must have certain pieces in them. So one is an accountability framework from that regard. What are the pieces? Are the pieces there? But then the other piece is a shared responsibility framework, where we're looking at what are the specific strengths and areas of need for that student, and does the IEP reflect that? And then what is the programming in the classroom to support that? So it's a very extensive process that needs to be worked through with the superintendent, the principal, and the teachers of the students that we're looking at. We also have ministry pieces that we need to be able to respond to. So one of the pieces, for example, that the ministry asks us for KPIs or key performance indicators on is the number of modified IEPs that we have. So we would be looking at that as well. And that's all part of the process that we're trying to build up. Thanks.
Mandy,
Sorry, go ahead. I just want to know who's actually auditing the actual IEP. Sorry.
So, yeah, thanks very much, David. I want to put the discussion about IEP audits in a context and caution SEAC. I can sense you've been very, very excited about this concept, and that is great. First of all, this is attached to an action plan where we have committed to improving the implementation of IEPs, their language, their adherence. We heard that certainly from parents, from SEAC, as well as observations from staff. So the work that Mandy is doing as far as the guideline is a really important anchor document. And it's a document that is going to be used by a school team to be reflecting on the work that they're doing in providing professional learning together with our support staff. It is meant for internal use to continue to strengthen the IEPs and the skill of our leadership team and our educators. It's not something that is going to be scored and results presented to senior team or to SEAC. It really is grounded in professional learning with the goal of increasing and enhancing our IEP. So just wanting to put it in that framework for SEAC to understand. We will continue to share with you the progress on the guideline, as well as how many schools that we're in and the feedback that we're getting from teams, and more to come. So it's still in development, so please we'll take your questions and ideas under advisement as we're continuing to work on this project. Thanks, David.
Okay, just to be clear, we may have an emotional deal that this meeting. If I spend $5 to get a freedom of information that's eventually produced, so it's, it would, I hope we don't have to let's follow through on this.
We'll
You can reflect on it too.
And we'll take that comment under advisement. Thank you, David.
Yeah. Well, my question about the audit, when you say audit, the idea that it communicates, at least to me, teachers develop and teams develop an IEP, students about it. Someone else at TDSB is looking at it and assessing it based on the kind of factors like Mandy talked about. And so someone who wasn't involved in developing it is taking a look at it, and then, as we said, is using that for learning, professional development, and hopefully improving the IEP. It's deficient. That's me talking, what I would assume it means. And so my question is, who's auditing the IEP? Is it somebody else at the school? Is it people from another school? Is it expected central folks? Is it the superintendent?
Thanks.
So,
Thanks for the question, David.
Or is it under decision? You haven't figured that out yet.
No, so under the Ed Act again, principals are responsible for individual education plans. They sign off on every single individual education plan. So the principal, it will be a part of that, the superintendent and any teaching staff that they bring into that process. Because it's a new process, that's to be determined at the school level. However, because the principal is responsible for the individual education plan, they will absolutely be involved in that process. Special education staff is there to support with capacity building, with deepening understanding of the superintendent, of the principal, as well as school-based staff, as needed for writing and creating and implementing effective IEPs. But it is the responsibility of the principal of the school as well as the teachers who teach the students and who are implementing the IEP, so they must be a part of that process. Thanks.
I understand that part of it. Are they auditing themselves is my question, or is somebody else?
Yeah, sorry, David. I think your question is a really important one. What we're envisioning is a process, and I think we need to reflect on the language because I can see where you and other members of SEAC are thinking about what a financial audit looks like as an example. So we may want to reframe this, rename this as certainly an IEP guideline, but a self-reflection tool. So we'll take away your questions and your wondering and try and be more precise, but it is meant to be a collaborative experience with the school team, together with the guidelines and the support.
And then it looks like the audit, I do really appreciate the word audit, but again, in terms of the mental background. With that one, not so much about the how, because I think once you get out the gate and start working with it, there's definitely going to be some changes that are going to be made. So, and I'm hopeful that, based on everything else that everyone else has shared, that there will be some things that's shared with SEAC down the road. But focusing on the teachers, I know I've been speaking with some of teachers, either colleagues or otherwise. And there is sometimes this inherent fear, a fear of, feeling like they have failed or like about to receive some form of a punitive response. And I love that you say that it's going to be collaborative. So I'll just ask that that is really communicated very clearly, so that there can be a lot of data gathering in terms of what is currently working, what the teachers are doing in innovation. We call it workarounds. So what they're currently doing to work around, there may be something, a concrete way to go about something like reaching out to the OT, PT department, if the teachers themselves trying to figure something out, or maybe it's something that the board themselves learn. So it's really just for me that innovation cap that's coming out to say this is a great opportunity to really just get down to the level of what parents are experiencing. But in order to do that, the teachers will need to also feel like they can safely make a lot of mistakes. And if it can be communicated for them to, even share some of their workarounds, and it's not only a look at the IEP, but maybe there is some qualitative data that's, gathered the way they feel like they're participants in this, not like someone who's paycheck can be affected by it. So that's basically it. Something else, sometimes on the IEP, they put on there the amount of time for the students spend with a special ed. And, I'm curious to, you don't have to answer now, but how that will be captured in this type of review, or if there are future plans to capture it to see, how that is getting completed, and if it is getting completed at all. So it's
okay, I'm going
to an opportunity there. Thanks.
All right, for your suggestions. I take it that was feedback rather than a specific question. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Diane, and then I'm going to do association reports. Defer my motion on the staff action plan at the next meeting, so we can wrap up quickly and
Yeah,
just have a couple of closing remarks. Diane, go ahead.
David, interim director Zucker does have a second part for the leadership report. That is
Oh, I didn't, okay, completely didn't know. Okay, Diane, ask your question and then
Okay.
Stacy.
Yeah, thanks again for that update. And on the same topic as everybody else is talking about, the excitement about the IEP audit. I am also excited about it and really glad that we're taking the feedback that we have to put this in place. So my questions, a couple things. You've answered a few things, but what I wanted to find out, I understand you're at the early stage and you're doing pilot, which is great, I love it. And you can't really do more until you do a pilot. Perfect. The pilot itself though, you mentioned it was going to be a number of different schools. Will they be a combination of different settings, meaning small group and inclusive classrooms and where I'm really focusing on? So are we going to do any pilots in a mainstream classroom? Or are you piloting it just in a small setting? Because that's very different. And we need to get the feedback from both types of settings. So that's kind of one of my big things. Because if it's only a pilot in a few classes, it probably can be done, I'm assuming. And then the second thing that I wanted to find out was the timelines for the pilot. Like, so how long do you think you're going to pilot before you can go to the next stage? Just an average sort of sense kind of thing would be nice to hear. And then also, as we know, there's lots of strategies in IEPs that can also be used, for the entire class and UDL and all that stuff. Is there going to be some kind of component within your audit or your tool or something to help teachers realize how they can implement the IEP and share it with the rest of the class? So it's not going to be, I guess my fear, following up from Latoya, is it's more of a not just putting it in place, but helping the teachers